Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're unpacking a story that honestly sounds straight out of a Hollywood thriller. We're talking absolute digital freedom, jaw-dropping profits, and a level of personal discipline that is literally extreme. We're diving into the empire behind one of the most downloaded apps on the planet, Telegram. And look, forget everything you know about your traditional Silicon Valley tech giants, because the way this company operates, it completely shatters the mold. All right, let's dive right in with this number. 30. When you think of a globally dominant messaging platform, you're probably picturing sprawling corporate campuses, right? Tens of thousands of workers. Well, not Telegram. This absolute giant of a platform operates its core tech team with an insanely small group of just 30 remote employees. 30! They don't even have a massive central office where everyone clocks in. It's wild. Now contrast that tiny headcount with its valuation. With just those 30 core engineers and over 1 billion users worldwide, Telegram boasts a valuation of around $30 billion. To put that in perspective, that's roughly 3 lakh crore rupees. It is just almost unimaginable efficiency. But here is the most shocking metric of the whole bunch. Zero. 0 rupees, $0 of outside funding from venture capitalists. In the tech world, raising money from investors is practically a religion, right? But Telegram's founder refused to take a single dime of outside equity. He wanted 100% absolute control. And to understand why he is so fiercely independent, well, we have to look at his past. Section 1. Escaping the Russian government. The birth of absolute digital freedom. So, the mastermind behind this whole empire is Pavel Durov, a guy who essentially started out as the Zuckerberg of Russia. Back in 2007, a young Durov launched a platform called VKontakte, or VK for short, and it just exploded in popularity. By 2010, when Durov was only 26 years old, VK hit 100 million users. He was a certified tech superstar. But in 2011, things took a pretty dark turn. Anti-government protests erupted in Russia, and the organizers were actually using VK to coordinate. That's when the Russian intelligence agency, the FSB, came knocking. They demanded user data and told them to delete the protest groups. So how exactly does a 20-something tech founder respond to one of the most feared intelligence agencies in the world? Well, he publicly posted a picture of a dog in a hoodie sticking its tongue out. He just completely refused to hand over the data. Later on, when powerful billionaires aligned that the state tried to force a buyout of his company, he posted a photo of a middle finger. Yeah, he became this massive symbol of internet freedom. But as you can imagine, he also painted a giant target on his own back. Durov quickly realized his days at VK, and honestly, his days in Russia were numbered. The pressure was mounting, his partners had sold their stakes, and he was losing control. So he executed a clean escape. At age 30, he sold his remaining 12% stake in VK for $300 million. He packed up the 2,000 Bitcoin he was holding, and most importantly, he took his newly built, decentralized messaging app, Telegram, and left Russia forever. He eventually relocated the whole operation to Dubai, purposely picking a spot way out of the reach and geopolitical pressure of superpower governments. Section 2. The 30-person tech giant. How a tiny team runs a $30 billion app. So how exactly does Durov manage a billion-user platform without a massive workforce? It basically comes down to 4 pillars. First up, centralized decision-making. Durov is literally the sole product manager. There's no corporate bureaucracy, no endless approval meetings. He decides, and the team executes. Second, a highly distributed architecture that allows the team to work remotely from anywhere. Third, they lean incredibly heavily on automation and third-party developers. They build the core, and then they automate the maintenance. And finally, a massive chunk of their ecosystem work is actually driven by passionate volunteer contributors. Honestly, it's a masterclass in ruthless efficiency. Moving on to Section 3, Telegram's secret revenue model, the $1.7 billion debt that forced to pivot. For years, Durov was funding Telegram entirely out of his own pocket, just burning his own cash. But in 2018, looking to create a self-sustaining ecosystem, he tried to launch a cryptocurrency called TON, the Open Network. He raised $1.7 billion in debt to fund it, which, again, let him avoid giving up any equity. But then, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission stepped in and completely banned the project. It was a spectacular failure. The ban meant the project was dead in the water, but that $1.7 billion, it still had to be paid back. Plus some really hefty penalties. Suddenly, Telegram is staring down the barrel of a financial crisis, and Durov was forced to finally monetize the platform. But out of that necessity came some incredible invention. They rapidly launched 4 highly successful revenue streams. First, Telegram Premium, which offers heavy users larger limits and cool features like voice to text. Second, an ad network for large public channels. And brilliantly, they give a 50% revenue share back to the channel owners. Third, in-app digital economies using stars and bots, which lets creators sell courses or subscriptions right there in the app. And fourth, they rolled out these really powerful business tools for merchants. And the result of this forced pivot? Absolute financial dominance. Going from literally zero monetization, Telegram recently generated around 13,000 crore rupees in annual revenue, which resulted in a staggering 5,000 crore rupees in pure profit. They essentially took a company threatening debt crisis and flipped it into an incredibly lucrative business model, all without ever selling out to venture capitalists. Section 4. The cost of total freedom. The dual-edged sword of absolute privacy. To really grasp why Telegram grew as fast as it did, you just have to compare it to early WhatsApp. While WhatsApp was primarily focused on basic one-on-one text chatting with a slower feature rollout, Telegram launched swinging. They had massive groups, public broadcasting channels, really advanced large file sharing, and most importantly, an architecture specifically designed to be highly secure and resistant to government shutdowns. This hyper-fast, super feature-rich environment is exactly why 1 billion people flocked to it. However, the objective reality here is that total freedom inevitably attracts bad actors. Telegram's ironclad refusal to moderate content or work with governments has made it a safe haven for illegal app activities. It's become notorious for rampant movie piracy, unchecked financial scams, and hosting groups that traditional platforms would just immediately ban. It's the ultimate double-edged sword, really. The exact same privacy that protects protesters in authoritarian regimes also ends up shielding criminals. It is a very complex reality of having zero government oversight. Section 5. The Founder's Extreme Lifestyle. Pavel Durov's Pursuit of Ultimate Discipline. You see, the uncompromising culture over at Telegram is a direct reflection of its highly eccentric founder. He fiercely guards his mind. Like, he strictly reserves 11 to 12 hours every single day just for sleep and uninterrupted thinking. He absolutely refuses to even look at a mobile phone in the morning. Why? Well, because he believes that if he checks notifications, he instantly becomes a slave to the algorithm, a slave to what other people want him to think about. He demands complete 100% control over his own mental space. And his physical routine? It is just as punishing. He starts his day with 300 squats and 300 push-ups. He's even known to swim continuously for up to 5.5 hours in freezing places like Finland. But he explicitly states he's not just doing this for physical fitness. It's to build what he calls mental muscle. By forcing himself to do these incredibly difficult things when he really doesn't want to, that's how he cultivates this ironclad discipline. Then we get to his dietary restrictions. It is essentially a 20-year history of just saying no. No alcohol, no coffee, no sugar, no junk food, no drugs. He survives mostly on vegetables and seafood and practices strict 18/6 intermittent fasting. He point-blank refuses to become dependent on or a slave to any habit or substance whatsoever. Durov operates on this really fascinating mental framework he calls alcohol in reverse. Think about it like this. Alcohol feels great in the short term, but it damages you in the long term, right? Well, Durov chooses the exact opposite. He purposefully chooses actions like grueling fasting or extreme physical exertion that feel absolutely terrible in the short term, but yield these incredible compounding benefits in the long term. This whole mindset is perfectly captured in his own words. He says, stress doesn't come from problems. It comes from not taking action. Whenever he feels anxiety creeping in, he doesn't sit around and dwell on it. He immediately takes physical or decisive action, and boom, the stress vanishes. It's a philosophy of perpetual, relentless forward momentum. Which leaves us with one final question. Durov has built a $30 billion empire with practically no staff. He's fought off superpower governments, and he's completely engineered his mind and body for peak discipline. He created a true sanctuary of absolute digital freedom. But as we've seen, that freedom comes with a significant, sometimes dark, cost. So is Pavel Durov's extreme approach to life and business the ultimate modern model for success? Or is it more of a cautionary tale about the limits of absolute freedom? Something to think about the next time you open the app. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll patch you on the next one.